Shoot! Shoot! Shoot now! I Stage whispered, but all my partners could see was antlers. Spencer Rumple, the Moose Whisperer here, bringing you exciting hunting and outdoor adventure stories from around the world. Today's story comes to us from my hunting partner and good friend, Nathan Adrian. This is a great story about friendship, preparedness, and good luck, as Nathan takes his two best friends out for their first ever moose hunt in the West Kootenays of British Columbia. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. Back in the spring of 2005, my good friend Roger asked if I had ever considered guiding moose hunters. And while I had never taken steps to becoming a professional guide, it was a dream of mine, and the journey started. Now, although most of my waking hours were consumed with planning and dreaming about the adventures that guiding would bring, I also needed to take care of my own hunting. So I applied with two of my closest friends for a limited entry moose tag in my own backyard. An exciting opportunity, as this was the very first time moose hunting draw was ever offered in this area. If we got lucky enough to get drawn for the tag, and lucky enough to find a moose in this vast wilderness of elk, deer, bear, and very few moose, we would be the first ones in our homeland to shoot a moose. Well, legally anyways. My hunting partners in this group hunt application were two close friends of mine by the names of David Rempel and Spencer Rempel. And what great friends they are. Dave was about 6'1" and weighs in at about 250 pounds, a weightlifting fanatic and solid muscle, but a hunting rookie. Spence stands about 6'2", a lanky tall guy at only about 175 pounds, but a very experienced hunter. All right. Sometime in June, we got notified that we had been successful and had drawn the shared moose hunt. That's 2 moose authorizations between the 3 of us. Group hunt. What a year this was shaping up to be. My first year of guiding was great, and all too soon it came to an end. And I returned home with a truck full of moose meat, thanks to the law that my European clients are not allowed to take moose meat home. Wow, what a blessing that turned out to be. For me, anyways. All right, back to the story. I returned home about 7 days before my own moose season, and I was primed and ready to go. I had learned a lot from Roger, my moose hunting mentor and co-hunting guide, in the past 3 weeks of guiding. In fact, many moose were taken, and clients as well as myself were amazed at my work and stamina in the field. Hey, all I can say is, if you truly love what you do, you will have the heart and the strength to do it. Honestly, it was some of the hardest work I've ever done, and I never had more fun. Well, we were not able to do a morning hunt, but just afternoon on a beautiful Sunday in mid-October. I borrowed my brother's 2-wheel drive half-ton Dodge truck and picked up Spencer, and we drove about 5 minutes down the road to pick up Dave. While waiting for Dave, my right index finger started to ache, and I noticed a small bump on the knuckle. Thinking that it had a sliver, I used a knife to open up the bump, but no sliver came out. And since the third musketeer was now in the truck, it was time to go hunting. I'll worry about that later. The spot we had picked to hunt was over 100 kilometers, like 60 miles up the Duncan Forest Service Road at Houston Creek, where the road crossed the river onto our allowed area. Unfortunately, the road was rough and we were late getting to our spot. But this was no big deal to us, as we were really looking at this day as just a day of scouting and looking for sign, seeing where the moose could be and where we may start to hunt in the days and weeks to come. Well, hunting can be a strange thing. Luck is certainly involved. But unless it's met with preparation and skill, it'll most likely be a missed opportunity. The 3 of us enjoyed our drive, chatting, laughing, and telling hunting stories. Since I was the only experienced moose hunter, I would be doing all of the calling, and I was very excited to show off and train my friends in this new skill. With only about an hour at most to hunt, we drove into an old, fairly bushed-in road off the main gravel road. We parked, and I let out a long cow call, pretty much just for something to do. It was late in the season, the rut was pretty much over, and I didn't expect to hear much. Both Spence and Dave, rifles slung over their shoulders, peeing in the bushes behind the truck. The area we were in was heavily forested, and we stood in a turnaround clearing that was maybe 30 yards from one end to the other. Well, I'll make one more call just to show the boys how it's done. Wow, that sure is a strange-sounding call, said Dave, when suddenly, oh, what? I couldn't believe it. A bull! Yeah, and close! Well, I took out my scapula, and I started to do bull grunts and then rake in the bush beside me. Silence greeted me. I let out another cow call, and instantly we could hear, but as soon as I did a bull grunt or raked a tree, he'd go silent. After that, I only cow called, but darkness was coming faster than the moose. Dave and Spence moved to my left, hoping to intercept the bull and wondering how they could possibly get a shot in this thick bush. Well, dusk was now upon us, and still the moose was nowhere to be seen. And suddenly, he was there, just 30 yards away, with just his head and antlers showing. In fact, from Spence and Dave's angle, all they could see was just the tips of the antlers, with the entire head and body obscured. Well, I quickly raised the scapula and turned it back and forth in the failing light, trying to imitate a moose antler while stage whispering, "Shoot! Shoot, boys! Shoot now!" out of the side of my mouth. Like I said, all Dave and Spence could see at that point was antler and spruce tree. Dave had his rifle up, but he couldn't see to shoot. Spence, being the wily veteran hunter he is, said to himself, "You know, if that moose flees, it'll most likely turn and disappear the way he came. Or it'll bolt right across that open road. Now that happenstance and narrow road would be the only option. But a moose on the run is going to cross that road in less than a second." Spencer knew he wouldn't have time to raise the gun, look through the scope, center a clear shot in that amount of time. So he brought up his gun, looking at the obscured moose through the scope. He brought the crosshairs down to just where the chest would be. Okay, now that's the right elevation. Now swinging the rifle over to the narrow road, he would just have to pull the trigger as the moose flew past. So, leaving both eyes open so that his peripheral vision of the moose was not disturbed, he waited only seconds until he was rewarded. For sure enough, good luck came in the form of that moose bolting straight across that road. It was moving fast, just a blur to the eyes as it ran through the bush and broke into the open for less than a second, as he was wise to us and intent on getting the heck out of there. Boom! Went Spence's 7M Magnum, and Dave jumped about a foot in the air as he wasn't expecting it, and the barrel was only about 2 feet away from his ear. I was so amazed that Spence could make that shot so quick, and even more amazed when the moose went only a few steps and piled up in the thick bush. We found out later that that shot had hit him straight through the heart. Huh. And what a bull moose he was! A mature old monarch with a spread of about 45 inches. Not huge, but beautiful. A real trophy for Spence, as it was his first moose ever and the very first moose taken in the West Kootenays of British Columbia. Now, Spencer wanted to take the moose home whole to show his dad, so after gutting it, we were able to get the truck to about 10 feet from it. And it was at that point that we really started to appreciate Dave. You just gotta love a man that could probably pack out a black bear just by grabbing it by the scruff of the neck, which might make the black bear a little owly. All joking aside, the three of us wrestled and lifted and heaved that moose off the ground into the back of the truck. Anyone who has ever tried that before knows it's no easy endeavor, as a moose can weigh up to 1,400 pounds. We got home late and left the hanging of the moose up to Spence, because work comes early Monday morning. Spence and his dad Harvey worked into the night skinning out that moose, and I suspect it was just another time that Harvey was proud of his son. On a side note, after becoming a moose guide himself, thanks to me, Spence was able to guide his dad Harvey on a moose hunting trip in the coastal mountains of northern British Columbia, where Harvey successfully shot a real beauty of a moose, and the father and son pride continued. Well, you remember that sore finger I was talking about? It didn't get better. That thing ached all through the hunt, the drive, and while I tried to sleep that night. The next morning, it was red, and so was half of my hand with a red streak going up about an inch on the inside of my wrist. As an industrial first aid man, I knew this wasn't good. So I talked to the other first aid attendant at work, at which point he advised I get to the hospital quick. I'll go after work, I said, against his protests. Starting to walk across the yard looking down, I was shocked to see that streak was now about 4 inches long. I decided to head straight to the hospital and was treated for blood poisoning. Oh, they said, good thing you didn't wait. Anyways, that's the end of my story. And that, folks, was the best ever moose hunt I've ever had. I didn't even get to shoot. But there's something to be said for spending time with your closest friends and making memories that you know they will never forget and they will cherish forever. I love hunting and the bonds it has created with so many of my clients, relatives, and friends. Thank you, Nathan, for that wonderful story. It is an especially special one to me because the Spencer in that story is me. Check out a link in the description to hear more from Nathan. He's got many great stories that I've been able to feature here. Well, folks, that's his story, but I'd like to tell yours. Send in your hunting or outdoor adventure stories to info@themoosewhisperer.com. Folks, one more thing. If you've made it this far, I thank you. And do me one more favor. Hit subscribe, like, and please share. Heck, we're starting a community here. Thanks for watching. More stories to come.